Play again or not? Oh, look at that. Okay.
Can you see it?
I wish you
My,
didn't do that.
I know, but I like it when it sounds so official.
It does.
It's voting in progress. Okay, let's go. All right, let me go ahead and push this. Everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. Y'all know how I do. Hold on, hold on, hold on. I'm gonna get this together and get my audio recording. All right. Welcome to Black Girl from Eugene. This is Aisha Elliott. I am simulcasting on KEPW 97.3, local radio station. Shout out, shout out. Today is, oh shoot, what is today? Sunday the 30th, May 30th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm right, y'all. May 30th. I literally on Saturday was wondering why someone hadn't delivered something, and people were like, it's Saturday. And I was like, it's Saturday? It literally was a whole brand new. I thought it was Thursday. That's how many days off I was. But
That's what
anyway,
happens when you're on vacation or you're in. I mean, don't even need to be on vacation when you're in Hawaii. You just lose track of time.
you just lose track of time. So welcome to my show, everyone. This is live on Facebook. I am recording audio, and I have my wonderful, special, esteemed guest with me, Ian Waller. Uh, and I want to say right now, I want to say what we're going to do immediately because people have been giving me this, like, a lot of pointers about how I should introduce my show, which I appreciate. But the one that I really appreciate is that I should probably say what I'm doing at the beginning, which I think makes a lot of sense. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with that. And what we are going to do is introduce your podcast yet again, because you have been on my podcast before, but I want to bring back my special guests, and you're one of them. And your podcast, The Power of Ideas, is so well done and is so informative and is so, like, I don't know how to say it's much more like put together than my podcast is. And so I want to give you a shout
You
out.
said it. You said it. I didn't say
I
it. You
did,
said it.
and I recorded it. What was I thinking? Okay, so introducing the podcast, The Power of Ideas. You, Ian Waller, also known as Kubla Kai. I know you don't want to,
No,
but
that's fine.
is there? Okay,
Sure,
and
yeah.
Astro Guru. Are we going there?
The Woo Woo Guru.
The
We're gonna reveal the nicknames. You remember what yours was from yesterday?
Wait.
Universe Juice. Universe Juice.
my my Astro name is Universe Juice.
Yeah, I'm the Woo Woo Guru, and you're the Universe Juice. I feel like this can be a thing forever now.
I think it's amazing.
I think we need to start a group.
Yeah, start a group now, and also known as my little brother. All right, so that's
Yep.
I think was excuse me, important title for me. Anyway, Power of Ideas. Before we do get started, though, I want to give a shout out to the fact that tomorrow is Memorial Day. And if I would have thought this out a little bit further, we probably would have been talking about that. But I think it's important to say, though, that the inception of Memorial Day, because, we're talking about Blackness on my show and just like living in the world and being who we are. And I think it's important, and I don't know that a lot of people know, that the inception of Memorial Day was actually a slave. Do you know this about in 1865? No. And you don't know? Okay. So in 1865, Memorial Day was started by former slaves on May 1st in Charleston, South Carolina. So there was like 260 dead soldiers from the war, and Union soldiers who were like buried like in a mass grave. They're just kind of like thrown out there and kind of buried. So and they were buried, these Union soldiers were buried in a Confederate prison camp. Like just like mass grave, put the Union soldiers in there. Anyway, these former slaves went and dug up these bodies, right? And it took them 2 weeks to actually give them a proper burial ceremony, and they did it. And so they undug all these bodies, and it took them 2 weeks to do it, and they gave them all proper burial, a proper burial as gratitude for their freedom. And it was like conceptualized in this march of like 10,000 people, and 2,500 children actually led the march, and they sang and they celebrated for like a couple days, and that was like the first Memorial Day, and since then they had celebrated it since then. So yeah, so people don't actually understand it. This was actually super appropriated, but this was like actually,
I mean, that was the thought that I was having for sure. Like, and then who took it over and made it something completely different, and now it is that because of what,
And now, and Black folks don't even know that this is something yet again, that this is our ish. We did this. Another a ceremony that we have celebrated and created and given. So I just wanted to get that quick shout out. I know we could have like a super long conversation about appropriation, and I should like technically start doing that kind of stuff, talk about appropriation more. But appropriation, like, it just pisses me off, and it's so I don't know, like when I think about it, like it's so this to me it's very cut and clear, but then you start to get into all this really like privileged conversation that requires way too much tact for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it requires a lot of tact, because I just want to smack a fool upside the head and just be like, what are you talking about right now? Like,
you know, what's something that's interesting, like for me, you know, like the work that I do as a sociologist is like, I really have started to dig into the history of, you know, things that we think that we take for granted now, like, right. So, you know, we'll probably talk about the fact that like what I study is astrology is a social phenomenon. And then I looked at like, what are the historical roots of perceptions about astrology right now? And it's always like bizarre. It's like wild and revelatory to like discover where they started and like the narrative that's been told about them now, right? And
right.
It can make you insane to like find out things and be like, and find out that the story you're being told is actually a complete fiction. I mean, sometimes it's not a complete fiction, but it's like, so like, are we being lied to about Memorial Day now? No, we're just not acknowledging the thing that you just said, right? And that's like a form of omission. That's like a form of lying in one way, but it's like,
look, look, let's just jump into this power of idea. Okay, let me understand this real quick. Because honestly, like what you just said is really interesting to me, because the whole idea of lying by omission is like when we talk about appropriation, right? And it's like what you were just saying, like, okay, tell everyone before we get started, before I do this, what you're studying your PhD through UC Santa Barbara, right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your work real quick, just like you said, just the title and what you're doing, and then I'm going to get into that, what you're studying with this idea of omission. I feel like, okay, I just want to asterisk that when people go omission is kind of still lying, omission is straight up lying. Like, I don't understand why people like want to asterisk that. If you didn't tell what was going on, that shit is a lie. Okay, I'm sorry, keep going.
Well, I mean, we could talk about, I think, it was on my podcast where we had a conversation where I was saying I would like to have a whole conversation about astrology and lying, because I think that each sign lies differently. And I think me and you actually kind of disagree on this. I don't necessarily think that that omission is lying all the time. Sometimes you can leave things out, and it benefits people. I think that everyone does this, just like I think everyone lies. You know, so if people are like, yo, I always tell the truth, like, no, you don't lie. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lie in itself. You definitely don't always tell the truth. Nobody does. But I like that conversation, and we can have that conversation for sure. So yeah, I'm getting my PhD in sociology from University of California, Santa Barbara. I just finished like the halfway point. So I finished my master's degree where I studied astrology as a social phenomenon. That's still what I study. Basically, I study culture and stigma. So I look at like what, and belief. So belief systems essentially, but I do that through astrology. So I look at what do people think about astrology? What do they like it? Do they hate it? Do they feel, what kind of way do they feel about it? And now I'm going to be looking a little bit more at how people within the astrology community talk about astrology, feel about people outside of the astrology community, and how it's being talked about. And also, like, you know, there's a kind of feeling that it's growing in popularity, and what do people inside of the community feel about that? And it's just a way of looking at at culture, but also like stigmatized forms of belief, which are kind of everything depending on your perspective. So I mean, and you know this, I know a lot about astrology as a practice too. So like, you know, if you're a Taurus, you act like this, or if the moon is in Gemini, what does that mean? And I know a lot about that, but that's not my as a sociologist, that's not what I look at, but obviously that's how I got into it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. I remember when you first got into it, because you were astrology was like your driving point. I thought that the way that I saw what you were saying, but I still want to get back to that idea that omission is not lying.
Well, in the context, so like we could talk about that too. Like, in the context of Memorial Day, right? I think it's kind of important. So, you know, everything. So I also have a master's degree in education from the University of Washington, and I studied story. I actually, like, my thesis was why do teachers tell personal stories in the classroom? And so I studied story a lot. And my personal perspective is that everything is a story. We craft narratives so that we can better understand the world, because you can't tell all the details of the entire of even your life, but certainly not America or like the universe. You can't do it. It's impossible. So we construct these narratives, and you have to leave things out, and you have to, but what you choose to leave out sometimes can be very specific. And in the context of Memorial Day in America, often what we leave out is intentional, right? We leave out, that was the whole purpose of the People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn, right? He said, it's like, let's tell the story of America through the eyes of the indigenous people and of the brown folk and everybody that's left out of the narrative, right? So now we have a narrative about Memorial Day that's basically all about the military, but really, it is about the military, but what are the origins of it? Who were the people that started this? Like, why are we not talking about that? Why is that not part of the story?
And the truth of it is that if we really want to talk about the military, those troops were in that division of the states, was that those troops were not honored in any way because of what they stood for. And that was the government against the government, right? So, we and the people brought that together and brought it together. And not only the people, but the people who were not even considered people at that time. So I always look, you know how I am. I'm always looking at the in between of the gray of like, I'm a behaviorist. I'm like, what was the feeling? What was the behavior? What was the cognitive dissonance and the cognitive, what brought that thought together? And then I think about, even on a soul level, like I think about just the souls and the trauma of slave people to have the capacity for compassion in the space in that way, coming from a space of struggle in that way. And you talk about people of privilege to toss aside people's bodies into these, it's just like that into these shallow graves, because of the opposition, right? Not because of, it was such a emotional tie to something other than what it actually really was. It wasn't really about, this military thing. It really was about, it's just kind of like the way that I think about it now, it's just kind of like the way that we look at how we look at race and how we look at relationships. And it becomes like these people who are extremists just disconnect like the humanity out of all of it. And it just becomes this like personal quest of it, just because it's personal identity, almost like people who aren't thinking about like the presidency, but they're thinking about Trump. They're right. They didn't think about, Nazis. They thought about Hitler. Like it was like this, I don't even know how I'm trying to explain this, but it was like this phenomenon of just like, what is that? Like, what? I'm trying to like describe it. And I want everyone to know that it's like 7:00 in the morning in Hawaii right now, and my brain will be warm. It will warm up by the time this podcast ends. So,
I think that I don't know. I think that it's, so what I often tell my students when I'm talking about this, and actually how I felt about it as I was like getting more familiar with sociology, is that everything is incredibly complicated, right? And so it's in one way it's kind of okay to not know, but also once you do know, there's kind of no excuse to like ignore it again.
Yeah.
And so I think that, like, in the context of maybe Memorial Day and like what's being left out. So like, for example, America is full of these narratives, and what is always being left out of these narratives is always just like very interesting, right? Especially to Black folk and, people of color in America, because we're always like, why are you not telling this part of the story? You like, even the fact that like civil rights, so thinking about Memorial Day, like the civil rights movement, in part, what has to do with the fervor around it and the momentum as it gained steam had to do with the fact that Black folks and people of color were going to fight for America in Vietnam, and then came home and were treated worse than they were treated when they were in Vietnam, right? And then so you have, what am I fighting for? And you were and you kind of give us this belief that we're supposed to be all men are created equal, all people are created equal, and I'm going to have these rights when I come back, but that is obviously not true. And so when you say that you believe in the troops, and you believe in our military, and these are the things that Americans value. And then I come home after serving my country and I'm not treated as an equal.
Right.
Well, you know, so then you have to kind of wrestle with the hypocrisy of America. And, you know, and then there's another question about who's not doing that wrestling, who's not doing that, who's not looking at that honestly. So
Right, but that's the part where the omission comes in for me, because at some point there's a line of reality, right? And I believe that when you omit history that way, or you do not tell the full story, like it doesn't obviously give the whole reality of the situation. Like, and I don't even remember the quote or who quoted it at this time right now, but it was just like, you know, you look at, and I say this all the time in my classes, it's like when you look at history and you look at it from the victor, right? It looks like amazing triumphs, but if you look at it from the people who were already there, the Black and brown people, it wasn't a day of it was a years of apocalypse. I mean, honestly, like if we're looking at it from the other view, it makes the whole situation look a little different depending on you look at how dynamic you're looking at it. So and to me, like on a more personal level, and you can even take it bigger, when you omit something because you are trying to paint a picture of a reality that's more about you than the actual factual thing, and not allowing the other people or the other person or the droves of people to take the whole reality and make what it means to them in their way. It's almost like telling other people what you believe they need to know, which to me is is omitting the participation of the conversation. It's not a conversation at that point, because it's almost like I'm gonna protect myself and not say this part, because I don't really want to hear what you got to say about that part, but I'm gonna let you do this part because that's what's most comfortable for me. And that in white supremacist culture makes sense, because if you omitted the violence, or you omitted this like, I mean, the way that the Union soldiers were treated, you omit that it was former slaves that created this respectful burial for people who were fighting on their behalf. If you omit that, you have to, in order to hold the lie of white supremacist culture, you have to. And so to me, that is manipulation at its highest form, because here we are now, what, like, 200 years later or something. And
yeah, so I actually agree, but I'll this is kind of a
do
this
your
is like
thing, little brother, do your
yeah,
thing.
this is like a little bit, this is something that, like, you know, an academic would do. And so, like, I agree with you, but I also think that there's a when sometimes when you use like totalizing language, right? So like omission is lying, right? In the context of a narrative about the United States, if we are omitting the destruction of, you know, indigenous people, if we're omitting the the how much black people gave to this country, how much brown people gave to this country, like this country was built on the backs of brown and black people, right? Literally. If we omit that, then certainly is lying. But you also have to kind of think about interpersonal relationships, right? So this is like I'm making a pivot here. So like if you say it, you have to kind of define exactly in what ways are you talking. You could say I'm not talking about interpersonal relationships. I'm talking about the narrative of the United States when I say omission is lying. So when I was saying it earlier, I'm saying, like, yeah, when you're talking to like an intimate partner or something like that, and they ask you a question, and you know that you're just being asked to support them, not to give them the truth, and you're just like, that's a different scenario. So it's tricky, right? That's a story too, though. You're telling them a story. It's a negotiation between.
I do. I know what you're saying. I do. And I trust me, I am not the best at not omitting, right? But if I lie, I don't lie by omission. But this is, and you're talking now, you pivot to interpersonal. For me, I just, when we talk about interpersonal, and if we take it down from the bigger picture, because I look at this bigger picture, and in my mind, like I said, I go down to how that trickles down into how we relate, so that it does become interpersonal, right? And this whole idea, and I'm skipping lots of steps, but this whole and I think about, as Black folks, how we move about the world, move around the world, and in this United States, under the guise and lie of the white supremacist culture, under the idea of this omission of truth and history, then coming down to how it becomes the efficacy of how we show up in these spaces. And so it goes like, it gets layered and it goes a long ways. But when it comes to interpersonal, I just believe that it's important to allow the other person to have their truth in it. For me to decide what part of the story needs to be left out or is better for them not to hear is more about me than it is about them.
But you're talking about being included in the story, right? I mean, and that's
included in the truth. That's important. If I tell you something that I'm like, okay, don't tell Ian that it's not gonna work for Ian. Like, don't say that part. I might be right. Like, I might be like, that may have been hard for you to hear. But then if I say it to you and you'd be like, oh yeah, I understand that, I get it. Matter of fact, I needed to hear that because now I can do this. And I'd be like, oh shit, I was like surprised by the way that you could take that in. It was information you needed, instead of me deciding that it was not good for you. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to decide what you can handle out of the story. Why am I deciding what part of the story is true for you and not? If I'm doing that, I'm controlling the scenario, and I'm lying to you because I'm choosing what you can actually. I'm choosing the story for you. Does that make sense?
I know people can,
this look up like, I just agree with you, Aisha, and I don't want to do this on your podcast. Right?
Yeah, for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have an example on deck that could show that how that's not necessarily true for you within the past 24 hours. You know what I mean? Like,
I want to, because this is my ish. Like, I want to know how it doesn't really, that's how I look at it, right? I mean, that's literally how I look at it. It doesn't, don't get me wrong. Like I said at the beginning, I definitely have done it before. I try not to do that, right? But it doesn't mean I don't do it.
Well, so that's different too. So now we're talking about intention. So we're talking about what are people intentionally lying? And if they are intentionally lying, that's bad. But if they are unintentionally lying, which that's is that, well, but you can't blame somebody for unintentionally lying.
Well, how do you unintentionally lie?
Well, so for example, you could be acting defensively, right? And you're also taking for granted that people know what they're doing. I said this in therapy the other day, and my therapist laughed so hard. And I was basically like, I don't actually believe that people know what they're doing. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that people act in all sorts of different ways. But if you say something to someone and then they have a feeling and they don't know how to engage with that feeling immediately, they don't know what that feeling is, and you're like asking them to kind of say something, right? And then they go and then they say something to you, and they say, I don't know, or something, and or maybe you challenge them and then they give you what you wanted to hear, but they don't actually believe that, or they don't know what they believe. And so there's all sorts of, I believe that there's way more going on than what we're actually consciously thinking about. And so you can unintentionally, you can unintentionally really hurt people's feelings, or and lie. It's people don't know what they want or what they're doing.
But I wonder if that's really, to me, I wonder if I guess when I think about lie, I feel like I wonder if that's like a lie, or if that's like a misrepresentation, or like you said, I'm just not ready, and it just came out sideways. It's a half story. It's like there's not a half truth to it. It's incomplete. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't finish it. Like, I couldn't think of it. You were on my ass for 5 minutes and I couldn't think about so I just said, like, okay, I don't know what I was like. To me, I don't know if that's like the same thing. Like, for me, I feel like lying is an intentional thing. And if I like, if someone lies by omission, what I'm saying is that it's about you. It's about me. Like, if I decide not to say something, it's because I don't want to deal with that. Not because it's about me. I'm taking the story out, which means I'm giving you the part that I can handle to have the conversation. It's not the part that I think that you can handle. It's that I don't want to deal with what the other part is going to be, which is a self-protection thing, which is not, I mean, it doesn't, like I said, if I'm trying to work with someone and I'm giving them just pieces of it, I'm only working with them on pieces of it. They don't know the whole story. You know what I mean? They don't
there's also, I mean, so
man, don't make me like spar you right now.
Well, the other thing, I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, this is why this is why we disagree, because
I know,
because right now we're unraveling the complexity of the idea that, I got some feedback. Is that?
no, you're good.
So like we're unraveling the complexity of just the idea that through lying through omission. And like, I mean, for example, you like, if you know somebody very, very well and you know how they're going to react if you tell them something, are you gonna do that? Are you gonna purposely hurt them even though you know? You know what I mean? Like, and I guess you would say, well, that's on them, right? But what if it's somebody that you love and really care about, and you've had this same sort of conversation a million times, and you know that what you're about to say to them is, and maybe it's not for you to say, right? Like, maybe it's not for you to tell that person that thing.
I mean, there's that part.
I know family secrets of someone else, and it's like, I wanted to tell these people for like legit 20 years, but is it my place to tell them? Am I being a liar by not telling them? It's not my business. You know what I mean? Like, but I somehow got privy to that information.
Yeah,
so I'm not a bad person for omiting that?
No, but I mean,
okay, I'm not then.
Let me put it this way.
Wait a minute. Well, that's not what you just said though. For
no, but wait, I'm about to say something that tells you about this. Now, okay. I didn't say you got to run and go tell it every time you got a piece of information. But if I said, Ian, I did this, blah blah blah, and you got to be like, Aisha, look, I don't know that it's my place, but since you are bringing it to me, I'm about to be like, I'm gonna let you know. But if you just know some information and you're like, oh, I know this information, let me go run and tell you what I know. That's not at all what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like,
well, I think you need to define what you're talking about a little bit more.
If I knew something about you and I was like, that shit is awful, or not even awful, that shit is whatever, it's information. And it's information that was given to me by a third party. I guess this is where that gray, there's lots of gray area in human behavior. But like, for me, the way I interpret that is that at that point, like what you were just saying, that depends on the level of the relationship and the degrees of the relationship and trust and the knowingness and blah, 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 all of that kind of stuff. All of that is relevant. I'm saying in generalities, if there's information that you and I are in direct contact and we're in direct conversation about, and you decide that I'm not going to tell you this piece because I don't think that you're going to react to it well, or I don't think that you're going to like what I have to say, so I'm just going to give you this piece of it, and we're in conversation. I think I don't like that. That's what I'm saying.
That's a much more specific example than what you said in the beginning.
Whatever.
That's what I'm saying. It needs to, because it's complex. So you can't just say. I mean, in the context of the United States and the narratives about the United States and the God, I can't find the word for that, but the inclusion of brown and black people within the narrative about the United States and the United States military, that to me seems absolutely like a lie, because it's like we are consciously creating a narrative that privileges white people, privileges what the white narrative, white supremacy mindset narrative, all of those things, and diminishes the role of black and brown people within it. And we're doing that knowingly, or I mean, not we necessarily, but the people that are continually perpetuating it. But at the same time, I think that there's I mean, this might be a little provocative on this show, but the fact is that like most white people don't know. Like what most white people don't know, but the white people that do know, that are perpetuating that they are the liars for sure. But it's like you have to kind of give some grace sometimes to the narrative and try and include it. That's why actually it's a very good thing that you did this. I didn't know that. Like, am I a bad guy for not knowing that the origins of Memorial Day? Not necessarily. And am I lying every time I perpetuate the story of Memorial Day when I don't know? Am I lying about it? No, I just didn't know. So it's like there's
but it would be different, like what you said at the very beginning, is now that you do know, now that you know, right? It's kind of like that Maya Angelou say, when you know better, you must do better, right? Now, if you continue to not know and you continue to move on as if that information was not relevant for you or for everything that's going on, now you're choosing a narrative that works for you. The truth of it is that Memorial Day's inception and inception of Memorial Day was about Black gratitude to people who had sacrificed their life for their freedom. That's what Memorial Day was about. right? And
Mhm.
so and it was like we were saying, it was former slaves giving Union soldiers specifically a proper burial in which they were dropped into and they were in that were left in a Confederate prison camp. So
Mhm.
that part is I think super relevant to understand the relationship and to this lie, or the relationship to this omission. This relationship, it's a huge, exactly what you're saying with the perpetuation of, I think, of this narrative around criminality of Black folks, of this narrative around the lack of ability and capability and in efficacy. All of this is relevant. And then when you have stories like this in 1865, where this is what was going on. This is what was going on for enslaved people previous, this is what where the mindset was for enslaved people. You know what I mean? Like, we just, it's like getting back to the humanity, like trying to really understand, um to really understand the depths of that particular lie, the white supremacist culture lie, the depths of that lie, the omission within that history is devastating, obviously, but it lends to all of this other degradation of consciousness of Black and brown people in this country. So I just, about our own history, about our own compassion, about our own ability, it just is something huge. No, to answer your question, are you a bad person because you didn't know? Of course not, right?
I
Now,
mean, I think that I think
but
that
this is the
what's
thing though. Are you willingly, are you, it's different to me if you are willingly accepting and spacing ignorance. That to me is
yeah.
different.
So I mean, okay, I actually want to back up too, because one of the reasons why I think that I mean, we get tangled up in this multiple times, but I used to be way more like you. And what I used to be like, yeah, omission is lying. If you omit something, then you're a liar and you're a bad person. I had a hard line in the sand, and so I would confront people all the time. And like, first of all, I'll tell you one thing: it did not benefit me to do that. Right? Like, it was like, so if I was like, oh, you're obviously not telling the whole truth. I actually told a story about my mom the other day to someone, and and it was, and I guess it would kind of relate to what you're saying. I don't need to go run and tell, but she told some family friends about an affair that one of them had with the, like,
Oh my
what,
God.
yeah, straight up. I mean, we know,
Yeah, yeah.
this is obviously on blast, but RIP mom, but at the same time, mom was a little intense, and like, she felt like her friend who was married had been holding on to this lie, and she felt that she needed to put that out in the open, because it was like, she knew she was holding on to this secret, and so it was like for the betterment of everyone, for this thing to be out there. And I remember I was in the room when this happened, and I was just like flabbergasted. You know what I mean? I cannot believe that you had the gall to. But it's like, but that, there you go, she had some truth. It wasn't untrue, but it was, and she put it out there. I mean, so I don't know, it's always hard. But anyways, on a more personal level, I feel like I've hurt people's feelings very much. I told them the truth, and even if it was about me and them, there's things that I could have done. For example, like in personal, like romantic relationships, do you either tell the person why that you're leaving, or do you just leave? Once you've made the decision to leave, you know what I mean? Like, is omitting why, is that lying, or you just like make the decision, okay, I'm out? And I've done both, and I can tell you that it really never helps. There's never really a right or wrong way. It's kind of whatever you choose to do. But if you're saying omission is lying, then I should always tell the person and then leave. But I can tell you that doing that, I've been skewered, and then not doing that, I've been skewered. You know what I'm
Well,
saying? So it's like,
I'm
you
not,
never know.
this again, it's not about them, right? Like, it's about you. And we talked about this on your podcast, which I'm going to get to. But it's really like, look, I've been married twice, right? I've had several relationships in between. I have left them mostly. I think I've been left once, right? And I'm going to tell you like this: when I left them, I always gave a reason. And I always gave time to process. And it was always a kind of a slow separation. This is just how I roll. This is how I do it, right? Because that's what I'm comfortable with. I could never just be like, if we were in a okay, let me just preface this with, if we were in a real relationship, like a meaningful relationship, I could never just be like to my romantic partner and I'm out. If it was a healthy relationship, right? Now, there's lots of caveats. This is like a human behavior. This is like a lot of complexities in between. But what I'm saying that is like, I just believe that there's a way to be compassionate and empathetic both, and that you can be respectful of the other person's process. And by telling them what your truth is. And so your truth, if you're like, look, your breath is stank and I've been trying to deal with it for like 6 months and I cannot. How do you do that with tact and with compassion, right? And some people be like, I would never say anything like that. I would just go, I can't see the look on their face. I can't hurt their feelings. I can't, but you got to know that choice was not about them. It was about you not being able to deal with what they might say and how they might feel. And that, but I'm saying, give them the choice, give them the opportunity to say that hurts me, or give them the opportunity to be like, you know what, F you, get out of here. Like, I don't want to talk to you. That was rude. Like, I thought that you didn't have to tell me that. Like, okay, but I need to tell you, I wanted to give you all of it, but that's my style. And it goes down into personalities. It goes down to like it's complex. But for me, you know very well, I have actually, the people I choose to have in my life, I want them to be able to tell me the truth like that. I've actually stopped friendships because of omission. Because
I had this conversation with someone else the other day, and they were saying this kind of the same. I mean, they said it's about delivery.
It's
they
about
were saying it's all, but I actually think that like, so I am like you. So for example, the way that you're talking about, that's what I want from people, right?
Mhm.
But I have a lot of people in my life that can't do that. So I have to, and so when they omit, right, especially if I know that they're omitting something from me, and I'm just like, I mean, honestly, you know what I mean? We talked about this with astrology. Robin is the type of person that will not tell you anything directly. She will.
But
and
see,
then
I don't think she does that to me.
Well, I think that that's incorrect. But I also, I can tell you that's not unique. Lots of people do that because you're right. It is about them. I don't know how this person's going to react, and so I don't want to tell them. So I'm going to tell them in a way that is more subtle. But maybe they're not going to get the point, right? They're like, I want you to just tell me the thing. Just tell me the thing. If it makes me upset, I'll get upset, and then I'll be over it. That's how I roll. But they don't know that necessarily, unless they know me well, unless I've told them that. And so I'm literally in an environment now in which direct communication is the last line of communication. No one says anything directly. And so, and the thing is that, like, that is insanely frustrating to me. I do not like it at all, but it's not, but I can't go around being like, everybody's omitting everything around here. I mean, I've done that, and I'll tell you, it didn't end well. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we need to talk about the things. And in fact, I mean, and this is kind of moving into astrology land, but families in particular, I feel like, have a lot of secrets, and there's a lot of lying, and they do that. Why? Because there's a need to keep the family together. And so in that situation, lying becomes important for the togetherness, for the functionality, for the stability. Some things need to be out in the open, but other things we don't tell that outside of the family. We don't tell that inside of the family. X person doesn't need to know. X person does need to know. We keep it between the two of us, and even though there's 15 of us, and so then lying becomes this whole other type of thing. It becomes something that is actually beneficial to the long-term survival of the unit. And that little nugget, which I definitely got from astrology, made me rethink the way that you think about lying is how I used to think about it. And then thinking about it that way made me rethink everything that I thought about lying and the way in which I engage with people.
Which is funny because our family, and I don't know if anyone caught from the beginning, this is Ian Waller. He is the content producer of Power of Ideas podcast. He's also like I said, a PhD student. He's also Kubla Kai, but most importantly, he is my brother. So so in our family, right? There are definitely background secrets. There's things that have happened, right? And lots of things that have happened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna say a lot, but I mean pretty freaking significant ish, right?
No, let's be real. Let's be real. If we want to put some stuff out, like I
mean,
am the living embodiment of a secret.
Right?
You know, something got omitted.
Okay, and I'm thinking two and three different things, but yes, you are clearly here. But at the same time, when we think about how it works in terms of relationships, right? The relationship, those omissions, it goes back to what we were talking about. In a family unit that way, yeah, everyone can't be, you're not going to put the 6-year-old involved into the marriage situation. We're not going to be telling little Timmy about what mom and dad are doing over here because that's inappropriate, right? Right? Like in this family, in a family structure. But for me, I feel like there is a time for in that space. It's the same idea. Is it relevant for you? If you come to me, like, like this has happened, if you come to me, I'm gonna need you to tell me the truth. If I come to you and I'm asking you, how does homeboy look just like you? I'm gonna need to tell you the truth, right? I'm just gonna need you to tell me the truth. Now,
well, that's different. I mean, if somebody asks you directly and you lie to them, that's just lying, right?
But that's I'm saying, omission of truth, right? Do we have to protect their feelings? Do they need to know all of that thing, or can they compassionately engage in the idea that person is seeking truth from you? Can you give up your protection to give them the truth that they need?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that in that case, if somebody asks me directly, this is what I actually tell them now. When I used to be like, I'd be like, yeah, I'm about to keep it real with this person and they're about to know what's up, but I don't do that anymore. Now I say, well, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the most real, 1 being, basically not telling you anything, how real do you want me to keep it? And I will, and that's, and usually, and it's the funniest part about it is that people be like 10, and I'll give them 10. They're like, I wish I chose 6. I'm like, and so I think that it's never,
I like that though. I like that. You're like, what can you deal with right now? Because I got it from 0 to 1 to 10.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, tell me how much you want me to lie to you, right. Essentially.
I mean, and that's a very like we were from the beginning, that interpersonal conversation. And when it comes to white supremacist culture, we need 100% truth. Okay.
Oh yeah, for real. I mean, well, I think yes, it's like, yes, I agree. There's just, we need to what's the word? We need to reintegrate what has been left out for sure. Because the narrative has been constructed to perpetuate white male supremacy, and that's the bottom line. Though that's what the narrative is, and so anything else is lying, right?
Right. And then and so it's that cisgender male white privilege crap. But and it can go on and on and on. And this is totally not what I was going to do this podcast on. This is why I left my podcast, because I just doing whatever the hell, and it turns out powerful. Okay, so Power of Ideas. Let's talk about it. That is your podcast. It's amazing. It started, and then it slowed down a bit, and then it started up again, and now you're in the second. What is it? That take 2. You've been doing some great. I love the way you edit. I wish I had time and skill to make. I mean, just when you're listening to your podcast, if anyone, check out Power of Ideas, because it is not this, and it's absolutely not like it's so much more. It's concisely put together. It's really well done. The people, your guests are very. I think you're very good about choosing really dynamic guests. So I want to let you talk about how you came up with Power of Ideas, and how and why you chose the format that you do.
Well, first of all, thank you. I appreciate this. Feel very validated right now. Yeah. So this is, essentially, this is like version 5 of a lot of podcasts over the last like 6 years. And then finally I landed on the Power of Ideas as like a concept. And then I kind of realized what I wanted it to look like. And and essentially it was like I realized over time that I needed an excuse to talk about deep subjects with people. You know me, I like to talk about deep things. You do too, but we're not everyone's like that. But if I created a podcast where I could talk to people that I like and are typically friends of mine about deep conversations, I would be able to have those conversations with people that I care about, or invite people on that I maybe don't know that well, and can talk about like really interesting things. So yeah, I mean, but this version, the Power of Ideas, is it's like this is season 3. So I did like a season with, I think I did like 20 episodes, which was really hard. I did a bunch in a row, and there was very edited, very put together, and that was right when I was getting into astrology, and was basically all about astrology. And then I kind of redid it, and season 2 was some of the same guests actually came back on, and it was more about the person. I was really interested in the person that I wanted to know more about them. And then now I feel like I'm finally in my group. I'm calling this season 2.5, where I'm actually bringing on people from the very first season, and we're revisiting certain things. Now, that's not totally true, but I had you on my first season, and now you've come back. You're basically like a regular guest. And my friend Shelly, she was my very first guest. We talked about what is love, dialogue as a form of love, and then a friend of mine, and then I had Robin on. But now I've realized, because I'm a sociologist, that all the things that I'm talking about and interested in they're basically astrology related, psychology related, or sociology related. And I kind of leave the psychology out, and always kind of focus more on social issues, because I think as a sociologist, I think that they matter more, they have more impact. And psychology is, in my opinion, kind of a way sometimes to divert attention away from social structures that are pressing people. Like it's you, the person, rather than the government or white supremacy, or these kind of structures that are putting pressure on people to act in certain sorts of ways. So anyways, yeah, that's where I'm at. That's kind of a big picture way of how I think about it. If you listen to the podcast, you'll probably just glean that I'm asking people about their lives, and injecting a lot of astrology, and I'm trying to keep it topical these days. So like when all the George Floyd stuff was going on, I really wanted to talk about Blackness in America. I really wanted to have people on that I felt were that knew this, and that could challenge the narratives going on. Like, right, like let's talk about this in a more complex way. Right now, I had a friend on that is half Palestinian, Jordanian. She's very, very active in like trying to inform people about what's been going on there, and it was like close to my heart, something that I didn't really talk about often, even though I knew a lot about it, because I felt that I would be you could get in trouble.
That's how you're gonna get. Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah. I want you to. I mean, I don't want to. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I only got a little bit through that podcast, and I want to get more into it. I kind of like want to be like, what else did she say? Because I literally was like, it's something that whole conflict is hard for me to talk about, because I don't know enough in depth for me not to sound like I'm and I don't want to say obviously, but I'm obviously not anti-Semitic. However, I'm not like, I'm not here in Israel, right?
Right. Well, I think there's like a yeah. Well, so first of all, one of the things that I'll say this. There's actually a really, really great episode of this podcast called Throughline with a historian of Palestine that I listened to yesterday. And they do, obviously, this is like a very professional podcast that is funded by NPR. And they do a great job of giving context to Palestine over the last 100 years, and basically do what me and Shadin did in my episode, but in a way more. This is an academic that wrote the book on Palestine, and I would like definitely encourage people to go listen to that episode. It's called Throughline is the name of the podcast, and it was literally, I think, May 27th was the day that it came out, and the name of the episode in particular is just Palestine. So but the episode I had with Shadin was, essentially the same thing. I wanted to talk about the genesis of Palestine, where did Palestine come from? Where did Israel come from? And then I really wanted to highlight the fact that this was one of the things that was mind blowing to me, was that this has not been going on for that long. And, I remember when I was learning about this and I was talking about it with some friends, and they were like, oh, that's been going on for thousands of years. I'm like, no, it's not been going on for thousands of years. It's been going on for like 60. And we need to talk about that. And actually now I know a little bit more that's been going on for about 100. Obviously there's there are complexities, but the real thing, real world consequences of the conflict, and the struggle of the Palestinian people against the kind of Israeli state is been going on since basically 1948. So but it went previously. But anyways, there's also this kind of fear, I think, and you just named it, of anti-Semitism if you talk about Palestine, right? There's a narrative about Jews in America that is like, you can never, like the guy in the Through Line episode said, they are in a uniquely criticizable position, and if you do, you can get criticized and maybe even like canceled, we'll say, for because of anti-Semitism. And
Right.
the thing is that there's there's an awfulness to what's going on there, that is, you can be a Jew against the Israeli state. That's something that just should be said now. This is, and they did a great job of kind of saying, if I was to criticize the Saudi government for not allowing women to drive, and for being a kind of a totalitarian regime, you're not going to criticize me of being Islamophobic. You're just going to say, oh, that's possibly true. You know what I mean? Like, the same thing is true for, like, Trump. Criticizing Trump doesn't mean that you hate America, or that you hate all white people. It just means that you think that Trump and his administration was an awful administration. Bibi Netanyahu is not a good dude, and the Israeli state has done some things that are pretty heinous. And it's really, really important to understand that the United States has a big role in that. And I think that, there's a friend of mine that I want to bring on because he's Black and he's Jewish. And we had private conversation. I'm not going to out who he is, but he was, told me a few years ago, he was like, he went to Israel, and he was like, yeah, I can't fuck with Israel no more. And I was like, why? And he just pointed to his skin, and I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, I'm Black, bro. He's like, he's like, so it doesn't even matter, that he was Jew. He was like, there's some things going on in Israel in particular, and it's not all Israelis even, right? It is, my friend shot in is like, it's not complex. And I was saying, it's not complex. It is complex, but it is not as complex as you say. And it's not so complex that you dismiss the entire conversation. Right. We just cannot. Right now, we're at a place, I think personally, that we are going to look back at this in 100 years, and if it goes this way, we will have witnessed perhaps a displacement and genocide of a people at the hands of a state. And the horrible irony is that this construction of the Israeli state was based upon the destruction of Jews in World War II, right? So how did that happen? I mean, I think it says something very important about humanity that this has happened. Like, and that's why it's so mind-blowing to me. And then there's people that will critique what I'm saying, basically because America has blood on its hands destroying the indigenous people and all that stuff. But
the kind of parallel, to be honest,
they are. But at the same time, it's like, we can do something about it right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's happening right now. And we have, like, I said this in my podcast, and I'll say it again because I think it's important, is that I listened to an interview with Noam Chomsky and Ezra Klein, and Ezra Klein challenges Noam Chomsky on, he says, what about China and the Uyghurs, right? And he's like, the Uyghurs are this group of Muslims in Southwest China, Northwest China, that are being basically put into camps, right? Into re-education camps, quote unquote. Right. But the thing is that the United States has nothing to do with that, nor do they have the power to change anything unless they were to decide to go to war with China. And that's just basically a geopolitical, you cannot do it. Like, it was a nightmare. And that could send us into literal world war and definitely trade wars. We just don't have the power. But we fund Israel to an extent that they would be essentially harmless without our aid. And so there's a huge difference between the ways in which we can kind of morally lambast China for being horrible, and funding an actual state that is doing things that you could say border on at least mass murder, if not intense displacement of an oppressed brown people, right? Like it's crazy. So anyways, I'm very passionate about it because I've actually been sitting on this for like a decade, and I just got very educated on it. But yeah, I don't think there's any room to accuse people of anti-Semitism when they talk about Palestine and Israel. It's just it's a humanitarian issue that needs to be.
And I think the way that I see this and how I'm seeing it, and to bring it back to Black, right, is because I feel, and the level of omission that we were talking about. Honestly, I don't know how many people in the United States that aren't directly affected, but who are absolutely affected by this level of white supremacist culture. That's actually about, we're watching genocide in real time and we're funding it in real time.
Straight up.
And looking at the parallels of what you were just saying, even to talk about, you can't really say, talking about the experience of indigenous people in this country, the experience of Black people in this country right now. Like, honestly, we can't talk about it directly because then it might mean this, and it might mean that. But does that mean we just omit the truth that's actually happening? Right. Is it too complex to just, is it too complex to just like drop the whole subject and be like, we're not doing that right now? Because that's that's the argument that's happening right now with the whole Asian hate bill and the Black hate, hate bill. Oh, it's just too complex to address. Creating a bill that's an anti-hate bill for Black people is too complex. But why is that? So the idea is that it's too complex with what you just described as the United States being so monetarily involved in Israeli maintaining their behavior and maintaining their military status is what it's so complex about. It's not really that complex. It's about money, and it's always money over people. And the whole idea about it, when we're talking about, this is not money over people, this is people, this is humanity. I feel like the more that we talk about all these different states of this kind of upheaval that's happening around the world, it boils down to that same complexity. Money over people, money over people, money over people. And then the people are screaming, this is humanity. And the structures are screaming, this is necessary. This is necessary evil, right? Yeah. So, and the problem with it is with the omission of talking about the democratic state is the goal, right? The omission of the truth of this is which allows the institution to continue, and for us who are trying to champion humanity. I mean, I don't know how many people when they graduate high school can tell you what Palestine is.
I was literally, so I'm 38 now. It was like my second year back in school in community college. And I actively pursued figuring it out because I saw something on TV and I was like, it was on the news. They were talking about Israel, Palestine. I did not understand what they were saying. Now I understand what they were saying is that essentially they're trying to minimize the conflict. This was 10 years ago, Right. And so, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. And then someone came in and talked about Israel, Palestine for like 20 minutes. And I was like, oh, that makes a little bit more sense. And then I saw that person was giving a talk. So I went and saw their talk. And this was this actually was really great. Just this blonde white woman that was using her privilege to go into Israel and fight for the human rights of Palestinian people that were being held. Now, there's some wildness to Hamas. Like that's kind of something that people will always bring up. Hamas is kind of this resistance group that feels that their land has been taken and that there's no other alternative than giving back the land to Palestinian people, and they are they're adamant, we'll say, right? And I think that
I mean, but to me,
it's difficult. But I will say, but anyways, my point is, I brought that up because she went into to Hamas-controlled Palestine and was fighting for basically the human rights of women and children essentially, and these checkpoints that are incredibly controlled by the Israeli state. So it's a lot, but
it's a lot, and it has a lot to do with morality. And my whole thing is like, you can't switch morality. You can't switch it in and out. You can't switch morality for humanity, and then at one point it's morality, and another point humanity. It's like, that whole and it's complicated because you can't take out the behavior of oppressed people and try to say, well, you need to act in this way so that we can have this civil conversation as I have my knee on your neck, right? You're going to get something like Hamas that's going to fight back, and it doesn't, and then it's just like, anyway, I like you said, this could be a conversation that goes on for hours and hours and hours because it is complex. But my idea, this idea that the just like the idea that this has been going on for all of my life and all of your life, right? I remember our dad and mom like having conversations about Israel and the Jewish this and Jewish that and Israel this and Israel that. And when I was very little, I had no idea what they were talking about, but it was very contentious. I know that, right?
Yeah, well, so it is a contentious, and I learned a lot from Shadin, and you know, there was 1948 is essentially the UN creates the Israeli state on Palestinian land and essentially designates that a large part of that land to the Jewish people so that they could resettle there because of anti-Semitism basically in Europe and obviously the Holocaust and these things. And so there's that, but and then in 1967 there's kind of an evolution and a giving of more power to the Israeli state. And so on my Instagram site, if you want to go there, it's the power of ideas, but all underscore in between the power. Anyways, but there's a picture. I just want to say that there's a picture, and it shows how the land has been taken from Palestine since it's been given to Israeli, and you can just kind of see like, but people lived there. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's happening now, and so it's like wild to me.
The British Empire put that movement in, and then when it got complicated, they threw it to the UN. And my thing is like the British Empire again. You know how white folks do, you're just gonna put some people in some other people's land and be like, y'all gonna do this? Like, you can't. There were people there. There was a whole damn thing going on before you decided this was the humanity move to do to help them, you know, survive this anti-Semitism attack, and then put them on here, and then all of a sudden, I mean, it's also important. I mean, so I also want to go back to say two things. First of all, is there's another book that if you read, it can help kind of give context to this era, which is called King Leopold's Ghost, and it's essentially about Belgium and their colonial takeover of the Congo and the rubber trade. But what it does is it shows how all of these powers, British, the British, France, Belgium, all these white colonial European nations basically went into all of these, specifically Africa, and just drew it up like a pie. And they said, you're going to get this, you're going to get that, you're going to get this. And one of the things that I didn't kind of realize is that they also did that with with Palestine. And then there's that piece. But we've been talking about this for a while, and I just want to say this, give my podcast a little shot. This was probably the most, I would say, important episode that I did, where I felt like I was putting my reputation, if I have a reputation, on the line for something that I really, really care about. I do try and talk about interesting and difficult conversations, but I don't do this. Was like one where I was very fearful of, if colleagues heard this and criticized me and maybe accused me of being anti-Semitic because of the thing that I'm even bringing it up. Because actually there was a teacher in our department, but he's got tenure that brought this up a few years ago, and students complained, and he almost got fired even though he had tenure, because he got blamed for being anti-Semitic, and it's just like bringing this up. But at the same time, I just want to say, it's a lot of the time it's like me and you talking about astrology and like just laughing a lot. Like this week's episode is about Dungeons and Dragons with like my boy Mitch, who's like the whitest dude alive, but I love him. And he's like, we talk about MMA and like sharing imaginary worlds and stuff. So I kind of try and keep it a broad array of things. And you brought it up, so we're talking about it, and I get fired up. I can get fired up about anything, but I'm definitely fired up about this. I feel like I'm not doing a good job. Like, you have me on your podcast like on a regular, and I need to have you on mine on a regular. Like, we just need to I need to schedule you like every last Sunday. It's gonna be brother and sister time. Like we're just gonna call it sibling corner or something. I don't even know what we can do, and we can just get on and just like start talking and just let people hear how crazy we go from idea to idea, and you have no idea.
I mean, I literally, I create. You don't really look at the Google Doc until we're in it, but I create a Google Doc for me so that I can create some sort of structure to the podcast, because especially with you, because I know we can go out there. I mean, even in the conversation that we're having now, I realize that there's like multiple threads. I'm like, damn, I didn't finish that thought, didn't finish that thought, didn't finish that thought. But you know, that's how we do. That's how we do. If people know, we're both Mercury and Pisces, and we just go on.
Okay, look, now that you brought up the astrology, okay, you know how Black Girl from Eugene does. Everyone who's listening, again, thank you for following me. Honestly, you guys are strong people. And I did put some stuff about Power of Ideas, because you're not on the Facebook thing, but there's 2 live. I can see we're in the portal of Zoom, and I'm watching the Facebook Zoom too. So it's like happening at the same time.
Gotcha.
So I'm doing, if you see me typing, it's because people are commenting.
I see.
But I'm typing up something. But anyway, when we're done, I'm gonna put your whole you need to give me that link so I can put it into the comments so people can just click it and go to the Power of Ideas. So there's that. But astrology. Okay. So what's really funny is that, I mean, I don't know if it's that funny, but we're both Pisces. I talked about astrology ever so often, and generally it's my lowest viewed dude.
Yeah, you know, I get it. I mean, people are listening to you because they want to talk about blackness. You know what I mean? What is the experience of a Black girl from Eugene? I mean, straight up, I get it. But astrology's dope, just so you know.
And this is the part that makes me like frustrated with that, is because like Black girls from Eugene, Black girls they are astrologers. They do astrology. We do these things. It's not all about like the depression or deprivation of my life, walking through the store talking about white supremacy all the time. Like sometimes I talk about sex and dating and astrology. Like there's life-ish happening outside of white people's white supremacy. You know what I mean? And so sometimes I wish not that I wish, because I just do it, and if the podcast or the episode of the radio has a lower viewing at that time, that's okay, because what I'm trying to teach in my education classes is that white people need to check themselves on their need for deprivation of Black people, and they need to start, if you're really concerned or really want to be an allyship or really just want to be a human being to another person, understand them in their wellness, understand them in their everyday normal, because as long as you're othering an experience of mine, although there is an experience I'm having, it takes away from the fact that I can just be here and put my underwear and my pants on and my jeans on and my one leg at a time like you do. I worry about my hair. I worry about if I'm gaining weight. I worry about if I exercise today. I worry about if I ate my bread. Like, it's not all about like going into the world with my Black shield on and fighting white supremacy all day long. Matter of fact, it's so embodied in what I do. I don't think about it like white people think about it, right? Like white people see a Black person coming in the room and they're like, oh, there's a Black person in the room, especially in the Pacific Northwest. Me, I'm walking into a space that's always white. Like I walk outside my house, always white.
We can have a conversation about, I know probably the most well-known Black male astrologer, and him and I had a conversation about Blackness in astrology, and specifically Black men in astrology, and we can have a larger conversation about that. I think that people would like it. What I would say is this: I think that astrology is this thing that is stigmatized heavily, right? And so what the research that I'm doing on astrology right now with my PhD program is looking at why it is stigmatized. Is it because that it's wrong? And what I've found is that nobody can really prove that it's wrong. Nobody can really prove that it's right, but it's not, and so the reason that people don't do it actually has much more to do with social stigma. What I mean by that is that it's white people engage in astrology. We'll say this is not, I don't necessarily know if it's true. I think it is, but white people are engaged in astrology more because they have the privilege not to have to worry about about like, oh, I'm into astrology. And if somebody was like, oh gosh, well, like Becky's into astrology, it doesn't matter because Becky owns so many different privileges. But if Aisha says you're taking more of a risk because you have all of these, if we think about your identity intersectionally, you have the levels of oppression that you have, like you have to, you're not going to choose another stigma. You're not going to choose another identity. So that is, I think, one of the reasons why Black people might stay away from it. It's not that they don't believe it, or even if they like it, they're interested in it, they're not going to admit that they are interested in it. They're not going to talk about it. And one of the things that they do is that they avoid it, right? And this is kind of something that I'm looking at, like, why do people who is, rather than looking at some sort of natural connection between those that do it, are interested in it and like it, I'm looking at those who don't, and why they might do that. Because usually it's a yeah. And there's another piece, which is that, so, and this, I'm actually looking at this in the context of the LGBTQ plus community, as well as women specifically, and essentially that people that are interested in astrology, one of the kind of emerging stereotypes is that they're quote unquote irrational, right? So that's and so if you are irrational, right, what is one of the most common stereotypes that men use against women? That they are emotional, that they are irrational, right? So to avoid being labeled irrational, you avoid things that are also labeled irrational, right? So if you, and that's probably also true for Black people. Black people have to perform at a higher level of rationality so that white people take them seriously, if they care about being treated some sort of way by white people. So what you can do is just avoid astrology in general, and avoid saying that you like astrology, so that you don't confirm the stereotype for white people or whoever the dominant person category is.
I love all that, everything that you just said, and I because I have this conversation with Black and Brown Indigenous people too. It's that veil of white supremacist culture, as if that we have to perform in that way, and understand that astrology is an ancient situation. This is not coming from white folks, period, in the first place. So again, back to that omission of the story, back to that having this idea that we don't have the whole truth. This is an embodiment of the connection that Black and Brown people have had ever since the inception of time. Like it's always been there. You know what I mean? The pyramids are built based on the relationship to the stars, right? And so this idea that it's something that is, like you said, stigmatized, and the way that you just explained that whole idea is basically this veil of white supremacist culture and how we have to behave, and therefore then at the same time still missing the benefits of what was originally created in our I don't want to say in our image, but still created for our benefit. Why are you trying to do that to me, man? Thank you. Still trying to it's ours. It's another part of the omitted story of our dynamic self, right? There's nothing that is Black and or white. Black folks have been doing it. Name it. Black folks have been doing it ever since. Brown people, Indigenous people have been doing it ever since. So for us to come back to it and have to be reintroduced to it, and then have to, like, again, hide it so that we can be accepted into the. If I say that I'm an astrologer, like I told you, like, when this podcast, we won't have that many views for this. They will stop already and be like, okay, and into astrology, And I'm not saying everyone has to love it. Obviously, everyone has their own thing, but it's just that permanence of it's that thing. It's that idea, like yoga for white girls, like, it's a basic white girl thing to do. Since when has that been, like, but that's like, if you go, oh, you're a yogi, the first thing you think of is that super slim, girl with the little cami tank top and the little jean, and she's got a little blonde ponytail, and she's got her little mat. That's exactly what people think of when you go, she's a yogi, right? Or they're a yogi. That's what you think. And so that level of disconnection for me is, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, let's not omit the history. Let's not omit the story. And actually, matter of fact, going into Juneteenth, we won't talk about this now. Like, I'm like fighting for the idea of, like, please remember that this is not like trendy right now. This has been going on in this little bitty town of Brazoria, Texas for like, I don't even know how long. Renthie's family is like directly involved in the inception of Juneteenth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Charles Brown, like literally the Browns Renzi's family.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's directly related. Even the land the family still lives on is part of the slave land they were given. Like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, it's crazy. So anyway, I'm trying to think. No, I guess you. I'm like, did you ever go to a Juneteenth celebration like when we were in Texas? But probably not. But like
No.
celebrating it back then, like you know what I mean, when it was just the Brazoria Texas thing. I
Hmm.
just want people to remember, like, let's not make it into like a, into like a Cinco de Mayo situation. But anyway, so I want you to talk. I want because you have been studying astrology, and then you really sparked it. I've always been like the person who tries to figure out. Like I've always heard about astrology. I've always loosely understood astrology, like most people do. I think I've always like kind of kind of looked at behavior through astrology because dad always did that. And
Hmm.
so when I grew up with him, that's something that was always like, oh, you're so snaky. It was like the Chinese zodiacal kind of descriptions of my behavior, and so I'd always like look at those things. But now that you've gotten so passionate involved in it, I've gotten more interested in it, and so I've read along with it, and now I'm understanding it much better. But I don't understand it at all in the context that you do, but I am getting to the point where I can start to see aspects in people where I'm just like, that is super Marsy. Like, and
That's crazy, right? It's
I don't
crazy. It's
say
my
that.
favorite part of astrology is when it emerges in front of you and you're just like, oh snap, they just did the thing. It's like wild.
And sometimes I'm always like, when I see people like going throughout the day, and I'm like, I also use behavior, right? So I'm like crossing this over, and I'm also looking at how it, and I don't know how to read that in a chart yet, but I know I'm seeing it, and it's just the way I learn. It's like, how is that Mars, like, where is that Mars showing up? How is it coming through trauma? How do I recognize it in the chart? Like that kind of thing. But I'm starting to see these things, and so it's complex, and it's not your weekly astrology shit. It's really not that. So there's
No.
a whole bunch more to it. So as we're talking about a whole bunch more to it, Ian and I were on Power of Ideas yesterday, and we were talking about astrology, and he brought up what is it? Cartography,
Astrocartography.
astrocartography, and I was like, hold up, what? Wait a minute, what? Because I have been thinking in my life, and everything happens for a reason. Where should I be going in my life? Like, where am I moving to in the next 2 years? Like, I gotta like expand. And in your podcast, you asked about travel, and it was just so serendipitous that you were like, oh yeah, I've been kind of dabbling in this astrocartography, and I was like, huh? So it all kind of for me like linked up, and so I was like, tell me more, tell me more. But I just want people. I want to have this conversation about astrology just very little because we're like now in the last 15 minutes that seems reasonable for people to listen in an hour and a half. Yeah.
Yeah.
But people who still listen to me, heart, you guys be hanging in hard. So
Yeah, I'm trying to get I get listen. I still can see how many people listen to, but I want to like on YouTube you can see when people stop listening and like all that, and I want those statistics. We'll see what.
right, I know. I feel like I need to shorten them, but people are like, I love it. She
I
keeps
like the long form. I think I listen to long form stuff, and so I like the longer the better, and because I could listen to it in multiple days or whatever. But yeah,
I'm starting to get into astro to the astrology podcast. I'm Chris now is not boring to me like he used to kill me. The monotone killed me. But now
but he's good though. He's good because he got the he's like dry wit, and
he's
like the last episode, the last forecast episode, he did this thing where he was talking about how they for their 300th episode they made a cake that was a natal chart and how
yeah,
they ate it in a specific way. And you got to know a little bit about astrology for it to be funny, but I was dying laughing, but just, and like, it is a specific sort of humor, and he does sound like a robot for a while, but I highly recommend at least the forecast episods. You can
no,
kind of, they're
and they're
so
good.
good.
Yeah, they're really good. And now I've gotten past his like and I'm just like, why did you do that? Like I've gotten past it. And when I tell the joke, I always laugh. I'm like, oh look, Chris told a joke, like because it's like so hard to follow until you get it. And sometimes the personalities of oh god, why can't I think of her name? Sorties. What's her first name?
Oh, Kelly.
Kelly. I'm about
Yeah.
to call her Kathy. Of Kelly and the other dude, the personalities that go. I think they're hilarious.
They
But
work. They work. It is definitely a show that you have to get used to, and then once you're funny, like you and me, we're just funny. Like we're just straight funny. Like we are funny people. But the but they are not necessarily funny until you get to know them a little bit, and then it's like, and then you're in on the jokes, and you're in on the like little family, and it feels really fun. You know what I mean? I actually have been me and Chris have had some back and forth. I was almost on there. It was pretty.
really?
Yeah, I didn't tell you about that, but yeah. Essentially, I think that sometime in probably the next few years, I'm going to go on there and we're going to talk about my research, which is pretty exciting. But and it almost happened already.
That's super exciting. And
yeah, who knows? But I mean, we did we exchanged some emails, and it was pretty.
We have different. I think I feel like he's like still. All of us are like still down to like super earth, and he's like huge, and he's still. I feel like down to earth. He just got all kinds of things going on. To tell you, my astrology crush, Jessica Lanyadoo, I'm definitely gonna be on her show. Like I'm not gonna be on her show. She's gonna be on my show. I just feel that we talk often. Like I actually like I'm always writing and she's always writing back, and we always like have this back and forth about her cat. Like so pretty soon I'm just gonna go the correct route and be like, hey, it's me. I need you to be on my show.
That's adorable, and I think that'd be wonderful.
Right? Because I want her to talk about her LBTG existence with Jewish, with Canada, I want her to talk to me about what that means for her, just like being more about like her background. Because every time I listen to her interviews, I'm so surprised how much people don't know about her background, because she talks about it, but they don't really listen to her about her. And I want her to talk to me about her experience, and that we can align it together. And I
love that. That's a great idea. I mean, like she's one of those people that she's open, but you have to listen to her a lot to know, and you do listen to her a lot. I'm a super fan. She's actually, speaking of lying, she is one of my most interesting examples, because she does not, she's Capricorn AF, and she brings the real, and I love it, right? We've talked about this. I love it, but I would never in a million years do what she does, because in some ways I think it's too it like puts people into a box without giving them any kind of agency sometimes. Like, this is your astrology, this is who you are, but it works for her, and people really resonate, obviously. And I resonate with it, but I couldn't pull it off, I guess, is a better way to say it. I think that she can pull it off in her way, but it's just fascinating.
You and I have talked about how I think that she's a negative person, honestly. Like, she said that she's negative. She's like, I'm negative, I'm gonna give it to you, Capricorn. But what I also think that she does in a really good way is like being able to give you like, I think she does. I think she's like, do what you want, man. But this is what I'm saying. To me, I feel like she's always like, I can tell you what to do or not. You can pick it up or don't. Like she's hilarious. I mean, sometimes the shit that she says, I'm just like rolling on the ground because she's hilarious. And I actually have a little intimidation by talking to her, because she's so Capricorn-y. I want to make sure that I'm actually way more Virgo when I talk to her, because I'm gonna be like, I need to have my shit on point.
She also, but if she's a triple Capricorn, that means that she I don't want to put your astrology on blast, but that would it would oppose your ascendant. So she's teaching you something very specific about how you present to the world, and it probably feels intimidating in a very
I know that. I actually am going, if I talk to her, I have to be specific, because she's gonna throw me and be like, you need to be more specific, and I'm gonna be like,
especially if you give her your chart, which I think that you told me that she does. Like, if you give her, now she's gonna know the weak spots, and
my chart, tell me what's up.
That way.
If I trust you, I believe that you will put I'll believe, like the submission thing that we talked about from the very beginning. If I trust you, like, I don't know why I trust Jessica Lanyadoo. We're like besties. She doesn't even know me, but like, I feel like if I trust you, you can give me the bad parts. And I trust that you'll do it in a way that you understand will be most kind to me. But if you don't give me the bad parts and I trust you, I feel like you've lied to me, and now I cannot trust you. Because if anyone can give me the bad parts, is the people that I trust. Like,
you know what? I love that. So I mean, we've talked about this with Robin. too, which is that like she you know I referred someone to her, and then she was like, don't ever refer someone like that to me again. because the person was like, I don't want to know anything bad, and Robin was like, that's not how astrology works, honey. And you know what I mean, like, and so, and I was like, yeah, my bad. Is so, but yeah, we're not like that, right? It's like, we want to know. I want, tell me the dirt, tell me the dirt. I can take it, I can handle, but some people can't. Some people can't. So you gotta omit. Anyways, so let me just go back to the astrocartography, because I think that you want to get this in before we finish. Yeah. So like, yeah, just preface, I don't know a ton about astrocartography, but I am absolutely fascinated by it, and I'm fascinated by it because of the way that I learned of it. So I got into astrology because I had like a really rough, 28 to about 33 was really rough years for me. And I decided, I think as I was finishing my BA, to go to Hawaii, and by myself. I just decided, I was like, I'm going to go to Kauai. I'm going to, do some hikes. I'm going to just have some like meditation time for me. It was a present to myself. And I got there, got off the plane, and immediately met this person who was very interesting but very strange. And we ended up having dinner, and we kind of got along but kind of didn't get along. And then she was like, I'm gonna clean up these dishes and then you're gonna go. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And I was like, but I guess I'm staying for the dishes part. And so I sat down on their couch, and they had a book on the table, and it was called Human Design. And so I was like, what's this human design? And so that human design is kind of a kind of astrology. It's like astrology adjacent. And so I was like, she was like, oh, it's like a kind of a form of astrology. You want me to read your human design chart? And I was like, sure. So sat down, and long story short, she read me my entire chart. It blew my mind. I spent the entire time in Hawaii reading this book that she loaned me, and that was it. I have forever been since into astrology, almost obsessively, and that was 5-ish years ago. I mean, my life literally changed from that moment. I mean, it's not like, oh, it changed my life. It actually changed my life in ways that I cannot, like, people be like, oh, you've been studying astrology for a long time. I'm like, no, not that long, actually. It was like 2016 that I even learned what astrology was. And actually, it wasn't even astrology that I was interested in until about 6 months later. So it was the human design thing. Anyways, yeah. Yes, that's a lot of preface to basically so astrocartography jumps in because I learned astrology, and then I learned of this thing called astrocartography, which basically says that on the day that you were born, there's different energies that are going through the world, and different. So like, if you're, in astrology, the sun, the moon, Mars, Jupiter, they all mean different things. Saturn, they all mean different things. And where it is in your chart means a different thing. And this is saying that there's a Jupiter line, there's a Mars line, there's a Venus line. And if you go to that place, maybe you're going to have the energy of that planet, in your life, more, right? So yeah, so basically that's kind of the gist, and it's different for everybody. So I looked up mine, and so there's one in particular. It's not actually a planet. It's called it's a north node south node axis. It's a point that is related to the sun and the moon. So like, and eclipses actually are a big part of the north node south node. So my north node went directly through Hawaii, specifically Kauai, and so if you look at my thing, and your north node is a representation of, kind of what is increasing in your life, but also if you think about it in more woo-woo language, it's like what you're supposed to learn in this life, and your south node is kind of your past lives, or the things that you are decreasing in your life. And so I'm an Aquarius moon, and that they're known for being into astrology. And so it's really interesting to me that I went on this vacation, and it was in my north node. What's supposed to be increasing in my life? What am I supposed to be learning? What's my trajectory? And it literally changed the trajectory of my life. So I told you about that last night, and I was curious about Hawaii for you, and like maybe where you could go that would be helpful.
I mean, Hawaii for me has popped up. Has popped up several different times in my life, and every time I'm here, there's definitely momentum in my life. There's never been like, I'm just here chilling. It's always been like I'm here, I'm chilling, but I'm here on a very specific life trajectory. there's something that's happening in my life that is generally in transition almost every time. Even when I lived here, it was like that. It was a massive transition in my life when I was in Hawaii. Even now, as I'm here, there's massive transitions happening in my life. When we were here last time, it was almost like a preview. There's massive transitions going on. So something about Oahu, but maybe not. I mean, I don't know. And the transition that's happened that I'm looking forward to, and I mean looking forward as in like looking ahead, is that you know, Barbara, who's my youngest daughter, is 17 and she's going to be a senior in the fall, and she absolutely is going away to college, right? Like, you know, all things the same, she will be off to college, and that means I'm an empty nester, and I have um to get out of Eugene. So
Travel time.
yeah, right, relocation time, and so um I'm really like, there's lots of factors we're thinking about, because Jasmine, who is my middle, or who is my oldest daughter, and the mom of my grandchildren, wants to come along with me, so that we're not that we'll be living together, but that we're in the same area, so that I'm with the grandkids and she has that support. So she is like, a factor, because Anthony, oh my God, will be in kindergarten.
That's
And
mind blowing.
now this is so stupid, right? So we got to think about his education all of a sudden, like he's going to be in school. So there's some factors, but I'm trying not to like put their factors into my factors. So I'm wanting to be very, I want to be very, very succinct in my in a way, because I want it to be meaningful. Although obviously, whatever decisions I make are meaningful in my life. That's how I've learned these things. But um, so anyway, the cartography was very interesting to me. So I was like, look at my cartography. He's like, I can't do that in 25
I mean,
minutes.
so all I'll say about astrocartography. So like, I am a kind of a if it works for you, then do it. But astrology is this one thing where like I am actually strangely a little bit more of like a skeptic when it comes to certain things. But the thing about astrocartography that I would say I'm skeptical of is that, like, to kind of test it out, you have to go a lot of places. That means that you have to have a lot of money. I ain't got no money. I mean, I can just think about the places that I've been. So for example, Pluto went through Santa Barbara, which is where I'm getting my my graduate degree. And the thing is that as much as I have enjoyed the process of getting my PhD, it's been a struggle. It's been a rough. My go in Santa Barbara has been a struggle, and so Pluto going directly through that is intense. Hawaii, on the other hand, was an incredibly revelatory, life-changing experience. I have my Venus line. Venus represents love, art. It went through Florence, which is where which another place that changed my life. And I did my study abroad there. So there's like, I can think about those things, but like, whereas I can look at everybody that I know and ask them for their birth data, and then I can see that kind of stuff emerge. It proves astrology to me in that way. Whereas astrocartography is a little bit more theoretical. It's hard to kind of test it out by going to these different places. I can ask people how they felt, but it's different. So, take it all with a grain of salt, do your own stuff. If you've got some money, go travel around, look up your astrocartography, but it's hard. I'm not a full believer in the astrocartography yet. It's more theoretical to me.
So I always be believing until I'm not believing. So
Yeah, that's good.
I'm always like, let's go. But so, so let me try. I have it. Let me try to see if can I just look it up, and like it will. I mean, how would someone like do that? You know what I mean? How
okay, so well, yeah. If you want to do that, I mean, I have yours up, but we can. So there's a lot of different websites that you can use. The best ones that like astrologers typically use, if you don't want to pay for it, you can go to astro.com. Astrodienst is what it's called. And but just astro.com, you look that up, and then you're going to go to you have to set up a page. I think you probably already have one, and then you're going to go to, this is hilarious, this is like a tutorial. There's a thing that says sections, and usually you go with the round one, and that shows you your natal chart. But you can go to this tab that says special, which is right next to the thing that says round, the tab that says round, and you can then you just click on astromap world. You can astromap North America, astromap South America. So I'll click on the astromap North America. You're actually Eugene, or just the West Coast in general, I think is pretty good for you. Your Hawaii is Saturn and Jupiter are going over it, and I think I told you this before we started, is that, you know, a Saturn line, you don't want to go to a Saturn line. That would be hard on you, just like going to a Pluto line, like I'm have to be on. So if I knew astrology, if I knew astrocartography before I went to UCSB, I probably wouldn't have gone. That's how intense Pluto is. But you because you have Jupiter and Saturn, let's just like test this out. Jupiter's about growth. Saturn's about constraint. So you could kind of say that Jupiter and Saturn astrocartography lines going over Hawaii would be like constructive growth, right? Constructive would be Saturn, growth would be Jupiter. You could say it's like disciplined learning. Now, discipline is Saturn, learning is Jupiter. Those would be kind of the things. So it's not going to be like, you're not just going to be like overflowing with new information and learning all of these different things. It's going to be more like I'm getting some discipline and learning things about myself and my life in you know, disciplined and steady and stable ways. So that would be, yeah, that would work for you.
Okay, makes sense.
But yeah, anyway, so if you go to the Astrodienst, you know, set up a profile and you go to special and then Astromap North America, like you have your sun line as well as a moon line going right through Seattle and Eugene and also San Francisco, and so that's pretty good. That's
my dog, sorry guys, I'm in Hawaii, I'm outside, the dogs are happening.
All the dogs. No roosters. I haven't heard any roosters.
That was this morning, and I think
yeah,
they definitely come about 5:30. So I would love, is there anything that you see, like just briefly, because I know you didn't really look and study it, and we will do it together, and I'm kind of just interested in seeing, is there anything that popped out for you that you're like, oh, that's interesting, that you see on mine just really quickly?
You have a lot of stuff in Europe, so you have a lot of interest. I mean, yeah. I looked at that and I was like, okay. I was like a lot of cool things that I would be interested in if I was you. Like I have some stuff in Italy, and Italy has been always like a place that is called to me for sure. But yours is like you have like a lot of different places that you could go. I think let me look it up here. So yeah, Italy, specifically Rome, is like would be great for you. Yeah, Italy is good, but also let me see. Yeah, kind of like everywhere, strangely. Yeah, basically like Norway, Denmark, Germany, Switzerland, all through that, all the way to Italy. What's this line here? Yeah, I would probably stay away from France maybe, but yeah, and then you have to look at your chart, right? So we know that you have that T-square, and so any of those things, any of those planets that activate that T-square, so like the sun, moon, actually that's maybe why Eugene's a challenge for you, because the sun and the moon, you were born on a full moon, and the sun, moon activate that T-square. So that's why I said stay away from France, because you have a Neptune line going right through France. So maybe France is not for you, but Germany, Italy, England to a certain extent, Spain could be enjoyable, especially like, well,
what did you say was enjoyable?
I don't know. We could talk about it more. There's just like, in particular, I would say like Norway, Denmark, Germany, like Netherlands, like Switzerland, Italy. That it's kind of that goes north south like that. All those would probably be an enjoyable time for you. If astrocartography is true, this is how I like to say talk about astrology. Although I'm definitely a believer in, but I know the parts of it that I really believe in, and I know the parts that I'm skeptical. So I would say, if astrology is true, this is the thing.
Say what you want. I've already packed my bag. So like,
well, Jupiter's in your 9th house. You're ready to go.
I'm like, boop, boop, I'm out. So,
yeah.
Honestly, like this is what the reason why I got so like super excited all of a sudden is because I have been having so many. I just have all this premonition and all of this like feeling lately about Europe, and I keep thinking, because I'm always talking about like, you know, the historic context of white supremacist culture, and I'm like, and I have not done my DNA very purposely, and so I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I know I need to go to Italy and or Germany. That's when you said that, I was just like, but I knew it was Europe, but Germany and Italy have been like popping up, and I'm thinking Germany don't make no sense because it actually snows, and I don't do that, right? And I was like, I can't possibly be going to Germany. And I'm thinking Italy, and I was like, oh, Italy, like, wow, that's insane. Can I learn Italian? Like, I just started getting all these little stupid like little things, but there's something about it. I was just telling Jasmine, I was like, that is where we need to go. Like, I don't know why, but I got to go see Germany.
Well, I've been getting on my that was the first language that I learned was Italian when I went there, and like I've been on my Duolingo. I've been kind of slacking lately, but I had like 100 days in a row. I'm trying to get better at my Italian. I'm definitely going to be trying to go. My goal is if I can do it next summer, I'd like to go and spend like a month in Italy. So you want to plan it, we can plan it. Although making plans right now in the middle of Mercury retrograde, we should probably not do that. But we start just thinking about it. We can do that.
I feel like I've already been planning this, and so I don't think it's like anything. The retrograde can like. I mean, I'm just gonna chill, but this is like ongoing, long. Like
okay, yeah. I feel you.
Like maybe we're gonna talk about this when we get off, but maybe we go before that, and I just help out. I'm serious. I gotta go. Like there's a very big.
Well, we could talk about it. I actually might be going earlier, but I'm very hesitant to say any of it because we're in the middle of the eclipse portals, and we're also we got the eclipse that happened, we got the eclipse that's coming up. It's in the middle of Mercury retrograde. You know what I'm saying? So and I'm broke, so I'm trying to save money. I told you yesterday I'm trying to save. So I say all that Aries energy that both of us have want to be like, yeah, let's go. I've gone on many trips and come back and be like, man, I have no money anymore, and I'm trying to have long-term financial success. My Taurus rising is trying to get stable.
We don't have to eat. We can live off kale.
You're trying to go to Europe. You're trying to go to Italy and not eat. Stop. Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea what you're talking about. That's all we do. You literally walk around, eat pasta and bread and drink wine, and then just walk to the next place and do the exact same thing. It's wonderful. It's the best thing ever. Just like walking to place and putting carbs in my body.
Sorry, my sister came out. She's frustrated. Okay. All right, you guys. Ian Waller, Power of Ideas. Please check his podcast out. It is informative. It is funny. It is thought-provoking. It has a lot of information packed in it, and it's just really well done. And I support it, obviously. We didn't get really into I wanted to talk about some of your guests, but we talked about how you choose your guests. But some really great conversations on there, and that like I was saying, although my podcast is long form, I can't hardly listen over 2 hours unless you're really good. And I always when I get into your podcast, I'm always like, okay, it's been 2 hours, I'm good.
That's the best compliment I could get.
No, it's like I say, just like astrology podcast, I'm like, oh damn, I've been listening to you for an hour and a half. Okay, so anyway, let's say it out loud, and then I'm gonna tell me out loud while I type this in. What is the
So the Power of Ideas is just what it's called. But I also like to tell people that for some reason on Spotify, it doesn't come up unless you type in an astrology and sociology podcast. So I call it, it's called the Power of Ideas, an astrology and sociology podcast. So if you're having trouble finding it, you just have to type in the part that says an astrology and sociology podcast. But it's called the Power of Ideas. If you want to find, I don't have very many followers. I just try and update it on my Instagram and my Twitter. But it's usually the Power of Ideas. But in between the Power of Ideas, there's an underscore. But it should just come up if you Google the Power of Ideas and then, especially if you also search astrology with the Power of Ideas, it usually pops up pretty fast. And
I don't know how to do this computer thing. Okay, the Power. I'm putting it in here. I'm literally just why am I acting like I don't know how to type?
I sent you a link to that you can use. That's a abbreviated link so that you can use it. It's easier to for people to use. I texted it to you.
Okay.
And next week's episode is Aisha. So we talk, and I try to have Aisha on once a month, even though she doesn't ever have me on her podcast very often. I like to have you on because I like to talk about astrology with you because you know a little bit. and you're way more like vibrational. What's going on in the world? I'm a little bit more. You're a little bit more Pisces. I'm a little bit more Aquarius, even though I'm a Pisces too. So that I think we're just talking about what's going on in the sky. And this next episode we talk about what do we talk about? We talked about Saturn square Uranus. We talked about Jupiter moving into Pisces, and we talked about the Mercury retrograde. So those are, if you can't get enough Isha, can't get enough Black Girl from Eugene, come over to the Power of Ideas, and you can get more.
It's a whole different Isha. Okay, it's a whole different.
It is. I'm gonna tell the story. I was like, yeah, do you want to use this episode as the dual episode? And you were like, yeah, let's do that. And then you were like, actually, I don't want them knowing. So if you want to know some dirt, come over. I actually don't know exactly what it was that you didn't want people to know, but it's out there. The internet is forever too. Please believe.
I hardly ever edit my podcast, but now I gotta edit that. Don't go.
I'm sorry, JK. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's true. It's true. It's definitely a different side. I definitely get comfortable and just be, like my mouth just be running. So anyway, all right, Ian. I love you. Thank you for coming on my show. And I think I need to like relook at how I do it and put you in on a regular. And I kind of think it's like wandering mind. Because I like that we can just get on it and we talk about something and we can go on and on and on. And we don't always agree, which is amazing. And it's so funny because we love each other so much. Like we try to be like super sensitive about how not you're wrong, bruh. Like and you're like, why you're so
listen.
Okay, we're gonna go real gentle,
real slow. Yep. No, I think we both appreciate that about each other, especially as we get older. And yeah, I mean, obviously, it's like I love having you on my podcast. Thank you for having me on your podcast. And I hope all of your listeners don't tune out. If you made it this far, tune into all the astrology podcasts that Aisha does, man. Support. Get hit with the old ways of wisdom.
All right, I'm gonna pause this audio right now. Thank you for listening to Black Girl from Eugene. I will check you out and you will check me out next week. Thank you. I'm so silly. Okay, I'm gonna stop this one and then stay on for just a second. Yep. And so I think I just stopped recording like this, right? Let me just stop. Okay, bye y'all. See you next week. Okay, and then I'm gonna end. I think I just need to end the. I don't know that. Can I?
I think you're still live on Facebook. Just FYI.
Yeah, I'm totally live still, but can I? If I end it with you, does it end it, or how do I end the live? Like without?
I don't know. So if I
do this, like, please give me some expert advice. But I'm gonna go to more and see if I can stop live.
What's funny is I might actually start doing a live link on Instagram and see what happens. Now that I can see how you did that, that might be fun.
Yeah, you should. And it says start video, stop, play, join, leave sound, mute story, ask to unmute. I don't think that it actually gives me a chance, like a space to stop the live here without like oh, I can't do it. Never mind. Figured it out. Okay, you guys, Facebook love. Mwah. I'm ending this live stream.